Hello, everybody. Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am the Wisdom Weaver who weaves the planets into stories and threads of becoming, because we are going through this most amazing time of shift. And yes, some of it is very volatile and chaotic, and it seems chaotic out there. But I really encourage you to focus on your self-care, your soul's or spiritual um, expansion through this time, because really the possibilities through this time are absolutely amazing. But I do want to acknowledge that it's also a challenging time with all this chaos and fear. And so, I just encourage you to take as much care of yourself and your spiritual, mental, physical wholeness and wellness as much as you can. Extraordinary self care is needed during these times. Okay. And I always think joy is an act of revolution, or a revolutionary act, whichever way you want to put it. And that if you focus on what brings you joy, it ripples out. Okay, enough of that. But, I just feel like I have to acknowledge, you know, that there are great difficulties going on through this time, and we will be okay. So I'm going to share the chart as usual. This is the week ahead. So April the 6th, I always start on the Sunday. And it may it may feel as if things are not moving fast enough for you, right? Okay, right now. And that's because Mercury is stationing to turn direct. Mercury's here at the start of the week, 26 degrees Mercury. Excuse some of all these extras in there. I may not mention them all, but they're all part of what's becoming, right? So they may get mentioned every now and again. But please, image search maybe if you want to know what they are and not sure if I don't mention them. Anyway, yeah, so Mercury's stationing direct. Venus is slowing down to station direct, just on the right on the full moon, as I talked about on my full moon video, like minutes after the Venus guided full moon. So, the two personal planets are slowing down to change direction. All this energy as well in Pisces kind of feels like quite like wading, if you like it's too slow, but we've got to let go and trust and have faith. So just kind of that in a nutshell. In this amazing kind of chrysalis time, it kind of feels like we're ready to kind of emerge from this chrysalis. We're ready. All the kind of rebirth, turning into something new, or co-creating or co-remembering something new is happening, but we're not quite ready yet. All right. So, and Saturn is in the picture as well. So, this week, and Saturn tends to be like slow down, patience, that kind of energy. So, anyway, let me dive into the week. April the 6th. Okay. April the 6th. So we start the week with the moon in Leo, like, pretty much right away. The moon moves into Leo tonight. I'm recording this on the 5th. And so the moon immediately activates some of the planets or planetary bodies that have recently changed signs. So initially, the moon will square. She's not on here, and I'm going to add her. Another thing, because all of these things are really speaking to me at the moment. But this is an asteroid that I have used on and off since I read the book Circe by Madeline Miller. And she just really speaks to me as part of this alchemization or chrysalis stage of becoming whole unto yourself and standing in your personal power. So Circe has just recently moved into Taurus. So the moon moves into Leo. The moon will square Circe, the sorceress or alchemist. And she's also in a fire grand trine to Juno, which is our sacred contracts with each other. to me, this means with this fire and earth, this means we are burning down some of our old contracts, making lava out of them in a way, fire and earth. Who was it said that? I think that was Steve Jobs. Thank you for saying fire and earth is kind of lava. and we are through this really transformational regenerative time. So lava really kind of fits with what I'm going to talk about next as well. But the moons, these are brief connections, but the moon connects with Juno in visionary Sagittarius, forward thinking, but Juno is retrograde. All right. And then, so she is revisiting some of the future contracts that we want with each other collectively and individually, and our contract with ourselves inside. I pulled the Two of Cups earlier, and that feels very much like that emotional contract within. Okay. And so the moon is in Leo, which is also the heart. So it's bringing your heart into it. And then the moon squares Circe in Taurus, which more and more I think of Circe as the root. We are alchemizing the root in many ways. So we can grow like a tree, like from the root and from our core values, and grow something that is really aligned with our values. And then later on the 6th, the moon also the moon also opposes Pluto. And oh yes, that's it. So I'm just going to draw aspects for that. So the moon will come up and oppose Pluto and square Haumea. And many of you have heard that me talk about, I wrote an article about Pluto and Haumea. They're of similar kind of nature. They're both regenerative, but the tower, Pluto is more kind of the tower. So destructuring and restructuring, or degeneration and regeneration, all of those words. Haumea is a creatrix energy, but she is the creatrix energy of the Hawaiian pantheon of gods and goddesses. And Haumea could give birth from any part of the body, and she could also regenerate. But she also gave birth to like Pele and all of these kind of things. So all of this regenerative earth energy involves kind of this creating lava to create new land. And I'm speaking metaphorically as well as not necessarily completely figuratively in this. I mean, physically in this case. But this is saying we are really in this period of degeneration and regeneration. Okay, and so the moon tunes into that. And Haumea and Pluto are squaring each other from 2022 to 2028. So we've just passed the middle of 13 squares. So we are definitely in the regenerative phase. We've passed the midpoint in so many ways. All right, even though it may not feel like it. All right, that was a lot on just those lunar aspects, but even bigger aspects on the 6th are that the Aries sun over here is going to sextile, and this is the one I will get exact, because so the sun will make an aspect of opportunity to Jupiter. All right. And so the sun will come up and aspect Jupiter. Where's Jupiter's in Gemini over here. And so I'll come back to that later. This is Okiroa. You can look her up if you like. But I've been studying her. So she's got a seer kind of prophetess quality. But anyway, the sun is going to sextile Jupiter. And that's a closing, waning sextile, but it's an aspect of opportunity. And this is another reminder to let go of some old stinking thinking or old ideas and old perceptions, and expand into this new expansive consciousness that we are moving into. It's more about ideas about who you are and your role and who and how you can take a stand from your core center Aries energy. And then the other big aspect for Sunday is that Venus, and I'm going to get this one exact too. So Venus is coming up and will make an unbroken flow aspect. I always thank my relationship with Kathy Beale for bringing up some new terms, because I like that one. A trine aspect is a little bit more flowy, but the sextiles opportunity, the trine has got this unbroken creative flow kind of energy to it. But again, it's something you have to kind of choose into. So anyway, Venus is going to trine Mars. So Venus is now 6 days away from, is it 6? Anyway, she's heading towards her station direct. She's also very close to this aspect with Saturn, and Mars and Saturn have just had their unbroken flow aspect, and they're in this mini grand trine with Uranus, which, you know, is a lovely creative aspect. I did a whole video on this, but again, it's not, everything can have its shine and shadow. This is kind of like we're letting go of some things that began right back in 88, and some things literally with the Saturn Uranus conjunction, and also moving forward into the new. But again, we're not quite there. This is moving slowly. But here's Venus. So this is affecting all of our relationships. This is also affecting our creative, consciousness in Pisces. It's also affecting our compassionate nature and our all these things that Venus represents, but it also represents our values, Venus, and money and things we own. And so we can see the challenge out there, right, with what's happening out in the world without going into too much detail. But also we are being asked to really tune in and how we can respond to all of this. It's the energy of that old that's dying, the power over complex, the energy of dominion and control and like top down hierarchy. All of this is being challenged, but they are kind of clinging on with their fingernails because they are getting these aspects too. But underlying all this is this potential and possibility for all your decisions, Gemini, Sun to Gemini, to help you to actually kind of make lemonade out of lemons in many ways. You know, I just had that opportunity to talk about that with my daughter, who she has some savings from something, her business. But anyway, we were talking about how we could take advantage of some of these new opportunities for, if you open this account and do a couple of things, then maybe you can get this extra thing. Now, not everybody has savings, so I'm not referring to just that. I'm just thinking about how can we shift our perspectives about all of this, right? Another thing is I used to have a terrible money story, as many of us do. I used to live in lack. I used to kind of go, I can't afford it all the time and things like that. I was challenged to stop saying I can't afford it and find another way of saying no, I'm not going to do that at this time, and start to have a conversation with my money and thank my money and thank my bills and have a kind of love relationship with my money. I'll try it and I'm not saying that if you haven't got much money, it's not understandable that you may feel in this fearful scarcity place, or if your social security feels under threat. I know that there's threatening. It's not happened yet, but you know, and some things are happening because of closing offices, and I do understand the fear. But the only thing we can do in this moment is the self-care thing of how we work with what's happening out there and what practical actions we can take. All right, this is going to get long, I can see this. All right, so let's move on to April the 7th. The moon remains in Leo, and I'm just going to put the moon to so the like the Leo moon is quite joyous, so that's a good opportunity to step into that energy of joy. Okay, and just say I'm going to approach this with an attitude of joy and fun and dance with it. The cards reflect that too. So April the 7th, the moon is still in Leo, as I said, right at, actually, this is a world point. There are world points that are said to be turning points in many ways. Now, I don't usually look at the moon when I look at turning points, but I'm going to today because everything's telling me that we're in this different time. So I'm going to draw some arrows. And this is why I've made so much more of my work public, but added calls to my membership, because I feel the insights I'm getting and that need to be heard more. You know, it's not saying I'm special, because the insights are coming to me, not from me. Okay, so I'm going to put this because the moon is activating all of these things. There was a square to asteroid Hecate, the way shower, and she is retrograde, kind of shining her light on the torch. But the first one I'm going to look at is an almost exact T square to asteroid Lilith, the only physical body of Lilith. We have black moon Lilith, there's a dark moon Lilith, and then there's actually four, but there's asteroid Lilith too. And then this is Hygeia, which is preventative health, mind, body, spirit, in wholeness, in Taurus, which is the body, which brings me back to coming into wholeness, getting very rooted, getting very grounded, manage your nervous system, which is Eris in Aquarius. And this is Vesta, the inner flame in Scorpio. So this is another aspect that, especially this at the world point, which is a turning point, saying you must focus on coming into center, nurturing that inner flame, nurturing your preventative holistic health, and balancing your nervous system as you rise up and say no, which is very Lilith. She is kind of like talk to the hand to what's happening out in the world. You know, I've kind of got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this word resistance. But if you like it, then how you resist is going to matter. But also, I loved this morning that I saw, at least on Utah's protest image, because we've got mass protests as I record this, the National Day of Protest. It says remove, reverse, reclaim. I like those words better, but they're also very Mercury, Venus retrograde words. Anyway, that just be mindful how you resist. Think into the Leo, think into the joyfulness, think into the being creative, thinking of creative ways to rise up as well. Oh my goodness, this is going to be long. Also, oh, where is she? Sorry. Let me pull my PDF over a bit so I'm not constantly losing where I am. You can also see that Pallas Athena is there as well, by the way. And I actually got strategy card. Pallas Athena is very associated with air signs, and she is a strategic justice warrior. She was very good at pulling pieces together and creating strategy. And I just pulled three cards for the week from the an amazing little deck. I'm not deck of character it's called. Anyway, and I pulled punch, gun, knife, and at first I was a little bit like, this is for the week. And then I talked it over with my compadre Kathy, who sent me those cards, and we came to the conclusion that what's happening out there, like the tariffs, it's a punch. And then the gun is also, they are bringing the gunfight, like rapid fire. And then we got the knife, and I got that phrase, don't bring the knife to the gunfight, in my head. But then it was like, oh, this one, because I actually pulled them reversed, or the knife is reverse that and think, do bring a knife to the gunfight. strategy, knife, swords, air, all of that kind of thing. Pallas Athena. So that's the way my mind went. So we've got to be more strategic with what's going on out there, because if we do not like it. All right. So then Venus will conjunct Saturn, and this is another big turning point. And wow, all of this is just happening, all of this stuff together. So bear with me that this is slow, and I will upload the transcript, of course. And actually, let me just transcript. I think I can turn it on so it's live here too. So, oh, there we are. Sorry, it wasn't on before. I think, but I always upload the transit also. We'll see how this one works, right? Okay, so April the 7th, later, but not much later, Venus enters, Venus is exactly conjunct Saturn. Now that can act a bit like a reality check, but Venus is retrograde and she's going to come back and she's going to conjunct Saturn again and trine Mars. You know, all these aspects are speaking to each other over and over. And I feel like she's had one reality check. So let me just quickly show you when the last conjunction was. It was January the 18th. Oh, 2 days before, you know what, the inauguration. Whoa. So now we're revisiting that. Oh, that one, by the way, Venus conjunct Saturn on January the 18th was at 16. And this was, and then they hit Nessus, abuses of power. April the 7th, we're revisiting that, but now we're seeing the abuses of power because they've both gone over Nessus, moving on. This one's in aspect, making this mini grand trine to Uranus, awakening. Now we're really seeing the abuses of power. They're being revealed, being uncovered. And it's kind of like another reality check, but it's also got this aspect, this feeling of determination to rise up. Going back to that, there will be another Venus conjunct Saturn on April the 24th, by the way. And that one is conjunct the North Node at the degree the North Node is has been sitting at right through the eclipses, right through this period, the Venus retrograde, and it's square to the galactic center. So obviously we'll look at that again later, but the moon's there. Then this is the divine feminine rising. This is not just about women, but this is that energy of love, compassion in the face of what's been happening. But Saturn is also, to come back to Monday, is resilience and backbone. This is and Mars is saying, you know, action, but warrior action, spiritual warrior action. All of these things are saying to this. And this is saying, in the face of this chaos and things and the reality checks we are seeing from those that are separated from their sense of interconnectedness and source, which are a few, but they're not going to last, is saying it's time to really kind of move in, get that strategy, start to take different action in local communities, all the things I've talked about, lots of time. So much to talk about. Okay, so we're still on the 7th. I cannot believe it. So much happening right now. But then, right, so that's at 5:01 a.m. This is a big day, basically, and we're feeling it as I record this. So 6 minutes later, Mercury stations direct. So that's kind of going to be revisiting things that we have been going over. Mercury is very Dionysian energy. It's about dancing with that energy, and you'll laugh when I see the cards, because it's about being that magician energy and saying we have to kind of think differently and perceive things differently to help us to co-create the future that we want to create. So that one's at 26 Pisces. You can see that Mercury is right there All of this really is working together. It's huge, but the tide is going to start turning. Mercury will take a little while to gain speed. Then we've got Venus stationing retrograde, but things are starting to turn around, and you will sense it and you will feel it. And then later in that day, the moon, still in Leo, will sextile Jupiter. If you remember, we had the sun sextile to Jupiter. Jupiter is in Mercury's sign, so that's also saying action, Aries, if you like, mind, thinking, strategy, bringing your heart into it. Okay. And then the moon will actually square Vesta, but we kind of looked at that. And the moon will trine the sun on the way to the full moon. We're in the action phase of the lunar cycle after the new moon eclipse, right? So it's time to take that aligned action, strategic thinking differently, and coming from a huge place of compassion. And this is in your personal life as well as ever, all the things. And then later that day, the moon will also oppose Chariclo, the spinner of grace, as we help to remember and weave this new story of potential and possibility that we are in. And I think, just looking at the mundane world, if we are to kind of rise up as people to create the world we want to see in the world, we have to think strategically, because the old ways are not working. For example, the old ways of protest. No, I don't think we should go down and burn things down, because in response to that, you know what they want to do: martial law in the US. And I don't think it's going to happen if we are smart. Some people think he's going to do it on April the 20th, Hitler's birthday. I think if we let him, he might. If we don't, it won't happen. Because we are all interconnected, and how we approach this really matters, right, in this time of great change. All right, so another big lecture from me. Sorry about that. Later that day, moon will trine, unbroken flow, aspects of opportunity, as remember, to Chiron and Eris, who are approaching a conjunction. So moon still in Leo over here makes that unbroken flow aspect to healing that divine masculine energy within, about that warrior energy, being more the spiritual warrior, also letting go of thinking that works a certain way. And I repeat my lecture about remembering human beings are flawed, and just taking people for what they're doing right now. We immediately got a comment about Cory Booker on our political one, about him being more bought than you think. I'm very well aware of politicians' flaws, but I'm very well aware that a lot of it's to do with working within the system, and also at this time we're in of co-creation and people's consciousness expanding. I'm allowing people to change and do the right thing now, okay? So I'm just deleting comments like that because I'm just over it. The people that come in with the yeah buts. All right. Anyway, we are healing that divine masculine, for want of a better word, which is that energy of control and all those things. And more people are going to rise up who are not bought politicians, etc. But we're in that flux. And then the moon will also aspect Eris, the table shaker, shake things up, causing a little bit of discord for sure, because we are seeing what the elites are doing, for want of a better word. Okay, tax the rich. And then the moon will square Uranus as Venus sextiles Uranus. So let's go to that one. Oh my goodness, too many aspects this week. It's just like, but hey, if you're enjoying it, you'll take it all in, or keep coming back to watch bits. So Venus will sextile, because remember, she's slowing down to station direct. Venus will sextile Uranus. Uranus is fast approaching fixed star Algol. Also, kind of the Medusa saying, kill our enemies, kind of thing, in a right way. And then the moon is coming up and quincunx Venus. Moon in Leo will square Uranus as Venus sextiles Uranus. So that is also about heart, connection with source and spirit, and allowing into your body to bring radical change. So many things working together right now. All right. Let's move on to the 8th. And luckily, we have a few less things to talk about that day. Oh, what a wild time. But Mercury is now direct, so you'll be going, yay. So, on to April the 8th. The moon leaves the sign of Leo and moves into Virgo for a couple of days. So here we go. Next to fixed star, Regulus, the royal star, by the way, that moved into the sign of the priestess at the end of 2011, from our perspective. But anyway, the moon will move into Virgo. Virgo is more service oriented, more critical, but also let's change that to discerning. And this is also about doing the right thing, meaningful work, all of that kind of thing. So coming out of this first start to the week, which is quite immense, and the things that come into your consciousness, it's kind of like Mercury is saying, the moon is saying, all right, bring all that down and to what you can practically do, okay, in all areas. But we also have another station direct, and I am going to talk about it because Pholus is kind of the tower card in many summations. He's a centaur, and Pholus moves quite slowly, so I'm not going to give you a whole lesson on Pholus, but where is he? Oh, there he is. But Pholus is stationing retrograde at 12:10 p.m. at this gateway number here, 11. And Pholus is also kind of taking the lid off the old rules, the old structures, and kind of letting things out of the box, okay, and taking the lid off so we can see all those shake-ups. But Pholus stationing retrograde on Tuesday is going to start revisiting some things. So Pholus will be retrograde till September the 23rd. I will go back to it in a minute, back at 8 Capricorn. And this is kind of saying, okay, we're going to kind of revisit. We've seen what rules are being broken, what structures are starting to kind of be torn apart, and we're going to revisit some things. And Capricorn in some ways is also man-made law and the structures we've built, and the courts will revisit some things, I think. And it's what rules, okay, now we didn't realize that was under threat. How do we preserve this, okay, for people? Okay, so on to the 9th, you'll be glad to hear. And Vesta, let's start with that aspect first. We've got so Vesta is the inner flame, but she's also the flame of the state, by the way. So all the states, not just USA. But Vesta on Wednesday will reach, she's just recently stationed retrograde too, but Vesta in Scorpio is going to make this lovely unbroken flow aspect to Ceres, who I'm writing a book on, and it's flowing out just like water right now. But anyway, this is about our needs, nurturing, and all of those things. This is in Cancer, this is in Pisces, saying look after your own needs first, do all that self-care, that emotional self-care, and then take that outwards and remind others to do it, but then also supporting others from that place of love and compassion, in a nutshell. And a moon as well is in Virgo and will then also aspect Pholus. So that some things that come out of the box will be new ideas and strategies about how to move forward and do the right thing. And then Venus will exactly square Hygeia, but we kind of looked at that aspect a little bit before. But then the moon will oppose Ceres, so this is kind of making this really nice, supportive, earthy, earth and water, kind of make mud, sculpt kind of energy of doing the right thing, doing the right work from this place of love and compassion. And then the moon will square Jupiter as well. So this is about these shifting perceptions and big ideas. And then the moon will oppose Nessus, and a lot of it is based on the abuses of power that we are that are being revealed to us. And that can include our own abuses of power, like power from our stepping into our own personal power. How have you not allowed yourself to do that? That's one aspect of it in many ways. It's not just everybody else that's been abusing power. Or it could be, say, have you been abusing the power of the vote? That could be one as well. Okay. Because a lot of people do not, or their engagement in how we are guided, and those we elect. Let's say, I don't like the word rules anymore. Let's get rid of it. Anyway, because it's a measure, right? Measuring up. We're ending that one. So on to Thursday, you'll be glad to hear. The moon opposes Venus. So this is significant because it's at the degree of the lunar eclipse back in March. Well, it's close, 23 degrees. It's activating that, something that's been emerging after that eclipse, something that's been letting go of, all of those kind of things. And this is as Venus is now hitting the degree she's going to station direct at, right after the Libra full moon, which is just 30 degrees away. Okay, so but this is also significant because the moon was with Venus when she stationed retrograde at 10 Aries back on March the 1st. So the moon's role in this has been really important, and because this is activating that eclipse energy, the moon is close to the nodes, and this is all square to the galactic center, which is over at 27 Sagittarius, and Mercury exactly squares that galactic center on the 10th. This is all really aspecting together, happening together, right? New truths, new visions, new ways forward. How do we shoot our arrows forward in a very different way than we have before? And move into that doing the right thing energy. Discerning, not hypercritical, discerning about yourself as well and your actions. And then at the same time, really, the moon will try and make an unbroken flow aspect to Uranus. So all of this is just happening together. And so this is making radical shifts. We are radically shifting inside and without. Okay, and I try to encompass it all, but it's really hard. And then the moon will oppose Saturn as well. So all of this is just like building all week as we emerge into this new sense of co-creative, loving consciousness that is, if it is to be, it's up to me and what's my part. Many ways. Huge. Oh, and then the moon will oppose Mercury, of course, and it's all acting together, and the moon will conjunct the south node, which is still square to the galactic center and is still at the degree 27 degrees that the nodes sat at through the eclipses. So change is still happening slowly. You may be getting a little chink in your cocoon of your chrysalis right now. Imagine what's going to come once we're fully out, because it's huge, but really you have to be helping it along a little bit. Do that self-care, lean in, all those kind of things. Then on April the 10th as well, Mercury, conjunct, the North Node, which is what can devour us. So it can be the fears can devour us of Pisces, and that fear of change as well, because it's all in such a changing time. But also this is what our potential is. This is that potential of coming from that place of creativity, love, joy, expansion too. Okay, being open to it. Okay, so that's conjunct the North Node. Oh, wow. And at that point, the moon is shifting into Libra for a couple of days, and we're heading towards the full moon. My goodness. These are well worth long videos, by the way, these aspects. So moon will move into Libra for a couple of days. Libra is the sign of justice, balance, harmony, seeks harmony, has the scales of justice, but often they are unbalanced, right? I always think of the moon in Libra really wants things to be all balanced and harmonious. And the only way you can find that is to go to the opposite point, Aries, and finding that balance within, right? Back to that old message. And so the moon will then oppose Neptune, and Neptune has just moved into Aries, as if you remember. And so you can see it here, and this is all at another world point. Neptune is more kind of spiritual warrior energy. This is the first time the moon is opposing it at those moon points. And this is bringing your emotional responses and reactivity into how can I be more of that spiritual warrior from within and come from that power from, not power over paradigm. Okay. And the moon will also at the same time make an unbroken flow aspect to Sedna, which in some ways is kind of our spiritual destiny at the crossroads of this massive shift in time. But we get to choose what that spiritual destiny is. Gemini, decisions. Okay. So many more things I could take, but I really want to get this finished now because we're only on Thursday. So, okay, I'm not going to mention, well, I will just mention that Vesta squares Pallas Athena, back to bringing that inner flame and strategy kind of energy into being. Okay, on to the 11th. And Mars. So if you're kind of tracking Mars, and remember, I always write every day on my Substack for these posts. Mars will actually trine the North Node. Okay, so unbroken flow. Mars has now moved to 27 degrees and is really moving faster now out of its retrograde period. Also, but it's still moving fairly slow, right, according to my software. So change still coming slower than you might like. Anyway, Mars reaches 27 degrees, which is the number where the nodes have been, through the degree where the nodes have been, right through the eclipse season. And Mars will actually create that unbroken flow aspect with both the North Node and then Mercury, pretty much as well, because they are, all working together and coincide and connecting with that new information wave energy coming from the galactic center. New truths again, but again, this is such beautiful yin energy that is saying, just trust this flow, trust this flow, trust this flow. It's okay, take aligned action, take care of yourself first, and also protect yourself from some of this chaos out there in any way that you can. Okay, not in that scarcity panic way, but in that just make sure your basis of security, which is you, is in good shape. All right, so and then Neptune we'll try and do know. So that's aspecting our sacred contacts with each other, bringing that spiritual warrior energy again. And I love that at the end of the day on Friday, April the 11th, asteroid Lilith catches up to Pallas Athena, the strategy, bringing more of that strategy in to say, here's how we can co-create this future we are moving into. All right, so on to the last day of the week, though I might peek into Sunday morning. So April the 12th, the moon is still in balance seeking Libra, and we're heading towards the full moon, remember? In fact, it is the day of the full moon, and I did a whole video on it. So first at 5:42 p.m, the moon opposes Chiron, and then at 6:22 p.m, sorry, these times are not right. My aspects on my list are brought in DC time, and they don't always seem to quite match up, but so I'm going to change this to DC, and then go back to the actual full moon on April the 12th, Saturday. So the full moon is at 8:22 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, my other times were really worse, a bit off, but that's okay. And this is the moon, full moon, opposed Chiron first, just at 7:42 p.m. So just like 40 minutes literally before this full moon. So all happening at the same time, is bringing something to fulfillment. And it's something that began to emerge from that eclipse, and as we entered that eclipse back on in March. Okay, so let me just stop the share for 1 second and show you. I just want to make sure I have the right charts up and not sharing somebody's chart, because I don't want to have to edit this because I haven't got time. Too many things coming through. So we had the lunar total eclipse on March the 14th. At that point, Venus was still in Aries. I just want to give you some idea, but the nodes were still were at the 27-degree mark. And now we've got this moon in Libra. Chiron at the time was back here with Circe, the sorceress. I just want you to know that, so much is changing since that point, because Venus had just gone retrograde pretty much. Mercury was about to station retrograde on that eclipse. And now we're kind of retracing all the paths, and Venus is about to station direct on this full moon. And it's a Venus guided full moon. So, I forgot to share my chart. So I'll show you quickly. Okay. Here we go. Just quickly, yeah, Mercury was about to station retrograde here, but Venus was retrograde. Now, Venus is back here. Mercury is going back. Neptune has moved into Aries. Things are slowly shifting. This is what I want you to see. But I also want you to know that this is also at 23 degrees like the eclipse, and we're still coming out of that big tunnel of consciousness shift and chrysalis stage. But the full moon is like a big point in fulfillment in this, in many ways, of saying we are ready to start doing things differently, taking different action, and approaching things differently, and coming from that healing from the inside out thing. Then, as I mentioned on the full moon video and before, and on others in this, just minutes after the full moon, Venus stations direct, right? So, so we've got Mercury and Venus stationing direct this week, and then they've got to build speed, okay? And Mars is still moving slowly from his station direct. Whoa, that was so long ago. And so personal planets, Mercury and Venus, both moving direct now. Okay. And then the moon will also, shortly after that, oppose Eris, the table shaker. So the 12th, the full moon, promises to be another kind of shake things up day, but more about people rising up from this place of taking a stand for something. And we want this more creative, more equal, more egalitarian justice. This is what we're fighting for, all those things. We, the people, the moon. Anyway, and I always get this thing, well, what if this means these aspects are affecting the oligarchs as they rise up? And of course it is. But collectively, I don't see the oligarchs holding. But if we take it as it feels like we're in twin timelines at the moment, because it does in so many ways as we shift into this new way of being, it may in the muggle world in one like 3D, let's call it whatever. I don't care what you call it. It's like, yes, it appears that this is them creating what they want, whereas we're creating what we want. But I think that what we're creating is going to win out for so many reasons. Anyway, so we finish the week early on Sunday morning, and I'll visit that later. The moon will still be in Libra and will square to Mars. Let's actually just show you that. But what another week of immense change. Mercury, then Venus stationing direct, and the full moon, and just and all that Mars, Saturn, Uranus stuff going on as well. But early on Sunday morning, the moon finishes up in Libra next week and squares off to Mars, who has moved off that 27-degree mark, but the nodes are still at 27 degrees. So we're still kind of under the eclipses, we're still under this chrysalis stage, but things are starting to emerge. And more on that next week, but let's look at the cards I pulled. Sorry, it's so long, but hey. So, 8 of discs. This is I am dedicated. This is like all great achievements require time. Vesta is dedication as well, and she came up in the early week. I want to read you the Rumi quote with this card as well, though. Everyone has been made for some particular work, and the desire for that work has been put in every heart. Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. Rumi. So this is you are a work in process as well, all right? And we all are. So this is collectively too. But this is just saying, so speaks to me of saying everyone has their lane, right? In co-creating the world we want, and in rising up as well. Everyone shines in some area. What part of yourself do you acknowledge as accomplished? People find their ways to a skill or craft through classes, books, and searchings from an expert. But becoming skilled takes time and practice. And although ambition is important, it is the love of what you are doing that is essential. Of course, we all have to accept that along our creative way, we can make some pretty disappointing work. However, our failures are important as they teach us what not to do. And in response, we refine and better our work in all ways. Eventually we get something right and we can see before us something we are proud of. Your skills and talents are improving. Keep on going, learning and honing, and it's possible that a project of yours is nearing completion? Your dedication, experience and patience must be starting to pay off. Take some time, smile at what you've created, but don't lose your impetus or let it all go to your head. Honor your ambition and talent. Take care of your tools. They are very much a part of you and your work. And then I talked about regeneration, and we get the god of discs. This is Dionysus, and this is all about regeneration. And Dionysus is also the lord of ecstasy. So do it with ecstasy. Ecstasy is much unrelated in our world. So there's a great book by Robert A. Johnson, who was a Jungian psychologist, about that, if you want to read it. Anyway, in nature, nothing is perfect and everything is perfect. Trees can be contorted, bent in weird ways, and they're still beautiful. And then the other quote is, whenever we touch nature, we get clean. People who have got dirty through too much civilization take a walk in the woods or a bath in the sea. Entering the unconscious, entering yourself through dreams, is touching nature from the inside. And this is the same thing. Things are put right again. Carl Jung. And you are nature too, by the way. So remember that. Anyway, yeah. So this is the heart of dancing in ecstasy with Mother Nature. It's kind of got that green man energy to it as well. And then the last card for the week is this, the red threads of tenacity. I wear my red threads. I am resilient. We don't develop courage by being happy every day. We develop it by surviving difficult times and challenging adversity. That's Barbara D'Angelis. And the other quote is another one from my favourite Maya Angelou. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are. Then you can rise from. What you can rise from and how you can still come out of it. That's the inspiration for the week. Did I show you that card? I did, didn't I? I am resilient. Know that you are resilient. We are all weaving this new story, and I strongly encourage wearing a red thread. You can buy red threads from any craft store. Don't go to Hobby Lobby, go to Michael's if you're in the US. Anyway, or Etsy's good too. Much love to you. I will see you next week.